At 8:43 p.m., millionaire Graham Delaney discovered three soaked children on his porch who called him Mr. Delaney instead of Dad, and realized his new wife had been lying about everything. The security gates of his Seattle estate clicked shut behind his Tesla as Graham pulled into the circular driveway 2 days ahead of schedule. Have you ever discovered someone you trusted was capable of unthinkable cruelty? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. The acquisition deal in Houston had closed faster than expected, and he couldn't wait to surprise Renee with the good news. $40 million would set them up for life. Rain hammered the windshield like bullets, turning the mansion's elegant facade into a watercolor blur. But something was wrong. Three small figures huddled against his front door, backpacks clutched like shields, their clothes plastered to their tiny bodies. Graham's blood turned to ice. Those were his children, his triplets. He killed the engine and ran through the downpour, his Italian leather shoes splashing through puddles that reflected the mansion's golden lights. Emma, Marcus, and Lily, all 7 years old, looked up at him with eyes that held too much fear for their age. Mr. Delaney? Emma's voice was barely a whisper. We've been waiting. Mr. Delaney. Not Daddy. Not even Graham. The formality hit him like a physical blow. How long have you been out here? He dropped to his knees, not caring that the wet concrete soaked through his $1,000 suit. Since lunch, Marcus said, his teeth chattering. The lady said you'd be home soon. The lady? Renee. Graham's hand shook as he gathered them close, feeling how cold they were through their damp clothes. Their backpacks were soaked through, everything inside probably ruined. These weren't just his biological children. They were his responsibility, his blood, his legacy. And they've been abandoned like unwanted packages. Let's get you inside, he said, lifting Lily while Emma and Marcus pressed against his sides. We need to get you warm and dry. The front door opened before he could reach for the handle. Renee stood framed in golden light, her platinum hair perfectly styled despite the late hour. She wore a black cocktail dress that cost more than most people made in a month, and her smile was as cold as the rain. You're early, she said, not looking at the children. Behind her, Graham could see flickering candlelight and hear the low murmur of conversation. The dining room was set for an elegant dinner party, complete with crystal glasses and imported wine, while his children had been drowning in the rain outside. What are they doing out there? Graham's voice came out deadly quiet. Renee's perfectly painted lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. They're not mine, Graham. I told you from the beginning. I didn't sign up for that part of your life. The words hit him like ice water. These children, wet, cold, and calling him by his last name, had been treated like inconveniences, like problems to be stored outside until someone else could deal with them. Senator Williams is here, Renee continued, as if discussing the weather. The energy contract, the one worth $200 million, he flew in specifically to meet with us tonight. Graham looked past her to the warmth and light inside, then down at the three small faces looking up at him. Emma's lips were blue. Marcus couldn't stop shivering. Lily had gone quiet in that way children do when they're too scared to cry. What would you do if you found children, your own children, abandoned and afraid? Tell me in the comments below, because this story is about to get much worse. Get out of my way, Graham said, pushing past Renee with the children. The warmth of the house hit them like a wall. Graham could hear Senator Williams laughing in the dining room, completely unaware of the drama playing out in the entrance hall. The marble floors gleamed under crystal chandeliers, and everything screamed wealth and success. But it felt hollow now, like a beautiful shell hiding something rotten inside. Graham, be reasonable, Renee said, closing the door behind them. The senator is... I don't care about the senator. Graham's voice cut through her explanation like a blade. These are my children. Exactly. Yours, not ours. Renee's mask was slipping now, revealing something ugly underneath. I married Graham Delaney, the millionaire tech investor. Not Graham Delaney, the single father of three. The children pressed closer to him, sensing the tension even if they didn't understand it. Graham could feel their small bodies trembling from cold, from fear, from the knowledge that they weren't wanted here. "Where's their mother?" he asked, his mind racing. "Where's Monica?" "How should I know?" Renee shrugged, the movement elegant and dismissive. "She dropped them off 6 weeks ago and said you'd handle it. I assumed you had arrangements." 6 weeks. His children had been here for 6 weeks, and he'd been in Houston, trusting Renee to care for them. The emails he'd received, short updates about how well they were adjusting, how much they enjoyed the pool, how grateful Monica was for his help. All lies. As Graham wrapped his shivering daughter in his jacket, she whispered words that stopped his heart. "Mommy said you didn't want us anymore." But Monica had never said that. Monica, who'd raised these children alone for 7 years, who'd finally trusted him enough to send them for the summer, she would never poison them against him, which meant someone else had been speaking for him. Monica Ellis hadn't missed a single one of her children's calls in 7 years, until the day she stopped answering forever. Graham sat in his home office at 3 in the morning, his phone pressed to his ear as Monica's voicemail played for the 20th time. Her voice was warm and familiar, the same voice that used to whisper his name in college dorm rooms when the world was simpler. "Hi, you've reached Monica. Leave a message and I'll call you back." But she hadn't called back. Not today, not yesterday, not for the past week. And Monica Ellis always called back, especially when it came to her children. The triplets were finally asleep in the guest wing, clean and dry and fed for the first time in God knew how long. Graham had ordered pizza and watched them eat like they were starving, which maybe they had been. Renee had disappeared into the master suite after her dinner party ended, claiming a headache that everyone knew was bullshit. Now Graham was alone with questions that multiplied like cancer cells in his brain. He opened his laptop and scrolled through his email, looking for the messages Renee had shown him over the past 6 weeks. Updates from Monica about how the children were doing, how grateful she was for his help, how the summer arrangement was working perfectly. But when he searched for Monica's email address, nothing came up. Not one message. Not one photo of the kids at the pool, or a thank you note, or request for a video call. His blood pressure spiked. Every single email had come through Renee's account, forwarded to him with brief notes like "Monica sent this" or "from the kid's mom." Graham's hands moved across the keyboard with the precision of a man who'd built a tech empire from nothing. If the emails existed, he'd find them. If they'd been deleted, he'd recover them. If they'd been fabricated, the search results made his stomach drop. Monica's real email address showed a completely different story. Dozens of messages marked as spam, filtered out by security settings he'd never configured. Messages with subject lines like "Please call me," and "Something's wrong," and "I haven't heard from them in days." All blocked, all hidden, all buried in digital graveyards where he'd never see them. Graham's fingers flew across the keyboard, recovering deleted files with tools he'd developed for his own company. What he found made his chest tighten with rage. Monica had been trying to reach him constantly. Not just email, phone calls that never made it through, text messages that disappeared into cyberspace, even a registered letter that had been signed for and thrown away. She'd been screaming for help, and he'd never heard her voice. When was the last time someone you love went silent? How long do you wait before fear takes over? Have you ever felt that crushing moment when you realize someone might be gone? Share your story in the comments because this nightmare is just beginning. Graham grabbed his phone and dialed Monica's number again, but this time he wasn't calling from his usual line. He used a different phone, a burner device he kept for business emergencies. The phone rang once, twice. On the third ring, someone answered, but it wasn't Monica. Yeah, a man's voice, rough and tired. "I'm looking for Monica Ellis," Graham said, his heart hammering. "Monica who?" "The teacher, the woman who lives at this address. She has 3 kids. Nobody by that name here, man. This is a construction site." The line went dead. Graham stared at his phone, his mind reeling. Monica's apartment in Detroit, the place where she'd lived for 5 years, where she'd raised his children, where neighbors knew her name, was gone. Not just empty, gone. He pulled up property records, city databases, anything that could tell him what happened to the small apartment complex where Monica had made a life for their children. The search results hit him like a sledgehammer. The building had been condemned 2 months ago, bought out by a development company for pennies on the dollar. All residents relocated. But relocated where? And why hadn't Monica contacted him about moving? Why hadn't she asked for help finding a new place? Unless she couldn't. Graham's phone buzzed with an incoming message from an unknown number. Just a link to a voice recording. His finger hesitated over the play button, some primitive part of his brain sensing that whatever he was about to hear would change everything. The recording was Monica's voice, but something was wrong. She sounded scared, tired, like she was reading from a script. "Graham, I can't do this anymore. The kids, they're better off with you. I can't handle being a mother right now. Keep them. I need time to figure out my life." But Monica had never talked like that. She'd never been uncertain about motherhood, never questioned her ability to care for their children. This wasn't the woman who'd single-handedly raised triplets while working full-time as a teacher. Graham played the recording again, listening more carefully this time. Monica's voice was slightly distorted, like it had been processed through software. And in the background, barely audible, but definitely there, he could hear something that made his blood freeze. A man's voice, quiet but clear. "That's perfect. Now hang up." Someone had forced Monica to record that message. Someone had made her sound like she was abandoning her children, when the truth was exactly the opposite. Graham's chest tightened with a realization that cut through him like broken glass. Monica wasn't avoiding his calls because she'd abandoned their children. She wasn't answering because she couldn't. The email marked confidential. Family court order wasn't just hidden. It was deleted, encrypted, and buried like evidence of a crime. Graham hadn't slept, couldn't sleep. While his children dreamed in soft bed for the first time in weeks, he sat in his office tearing apart every digital trail that connected to Monica, to Renee, to the past 6 weeks of lies. The coffee had gone cold hours ago, but his focus burned hot. 20 years of building tech companies had taught him that data never really disappeared. It just got buried deeper, waiting for someone with the right tools to dig it up. And Graham had all the right tools. He'd already discovered that Renee had been intercepting Monica's communications for months, not weeks. Email filters that sent Monica's messages to spam. Phone number blocks that made her calls disappear. Even a fake auto-reply that made Monica think Graham was getting her messages and choosing not to respond. But this went deeper. This was systematic, calculated, and cruel in ways that made Graham's hands shake with rage. The breakthrough came at dawn, when he cracked through Renee's encrypted personal files. Most people thought deleting a file made it disappear forever. Most people were wrong. The recovered email was like finding a smoking gun in a murder case, sent from the Seattle family court system to Monica's old email address, with copies that had been automatically forwarded to a legal office Graham had never heard of. His wife, his beautiful, charming, manipulative wife, had been intercepting legal documents meant for Monica. Court orders, custody modifications, official communications that Monica had a legal right to receive. But the content of the email made Graham's chest tighten with something beyond anger, something closer to terror. Monica hadn't just lost her apartment. She'd been placed in protective custody. The document was dense with legal language, but the core message was clear. Monica Ellis and her 3 minor children were considered at risk due to credible threats against their safety. The court was granting emergency custody to the father, Graham Delaney, while Monica was relocated to a secure facility until the threat could be neutralized. What would you do if you discovered someone had been intercepting messages meant to protect children? How far would you go to uncover the truth? Tell me in the comments, because this story is about to get much darker. Graham read the document 3 times before the implications sank in. Monica hadn't sent the children to him for a fun summer visit. She'd been forced to send them to him because staying with her had become too dangerous. Someone had been threatening her, threatening them all, and Renee had made sure he never found out. Graham's phone rang, snapping him out of his daze. The caller ID showed a number he didn't recognize, but something made him answer. "Mr. Delaney?" The voice was female, professional, with the crisp tone of someone used to dealing with emergencies. "This is Detective Sarah Chun with Seattle Police. I need to ask you some questions about your wife." Graham's blood turned to ice. What kind of questions? The kind that are best discussed in person. Are you available to come down to the station this morning? Is Monica? Graham's voice caught. Is this about Monica Ellis? Among other things, yes. Detective Chin's tone was carefully neutral, the way cops talked when they were trying not to reveal too much. Mr. Delaney, when was the last time you spoke directly with Ms. Ellis? The question hit him like a physical blow. When was the last time? Not a forwarded email from Renee, not a filtered message, but an actual conversation with Monica's voice on the other end of the line. Graham's mind raced back through months of communication, all of it filtered through his wife. I haven't. Not since she sent the children. That was 6 weeks ago. Yes. And you didn't find that odd? A mother not checking on her children for 6 weeks. Graham closed his eyes, feeling the weight of his stupidity crushing down on him. I trusted my wife to handle the communications. She said Monica was busy with summer school, that she called every few days but didn't want to interrupt my work schedule. Detective Chun was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice had softened slightly. Mr. Delaney, I think we need to have a conversation about what your wife has been doing while you were out of town. Graham looked up at the ceiling, where he could hear his children stirring in their rooms above. Emma asking Marcus if they could have cereal for breakfast. Lily wondering out loud if their mommy was coming to visit today. Detective, Graham said, his voice barely above a whisper, please tell me Monica is alive. The pause before she answered lasted forever. She is, Detective Chin finally said. But Mr. Delaney, the situation is more complicated than you know. Your wife hasn't just been intercepting communications. She's been actively involved in keeping Ms. Ellis away from her children. What do you mean, actively involved? I mean, she's been paying people to make sure Monica couldn't contact you or the children. And those people, they don't usually stop at making phone calls. Graham's office door opened quietly. Renee stood in the doorway, perfectly dressed despite the early hour, her makeup flawless and her smile cold as winter morning. Who are you talking to, darling? She asked, stepping into the room like she owned it. Which, according to their prenup, she pretty much did. The police, Graham said, not bothering to soften the words. Renee's smile never wavered, but something shifted behind her eyes. Something dangerous. How interesting, she said, closing the door behind her with a soft click. I suppose it's time we had a real conversation about Monica. 7-year-old Emma's innocent words, she said you'd forget us, just like you did last time, revealed a wound that had been bleeding for years. Graham hung up on Detective Chun with a promise to call back, his eyes never leaving Renee's face. His wife moved through his office like a predator, her heels clicking against the hardwood floors with deliberate precision. You look tired, darling, Renee said, perching on the edge of his desk. All this detective work must be exhausting. What did you do to Monica? Renee's laugh was like crystal breaking. I protected our marriage. I protected our future. Monica was a complication that needed to be managed. Managed? Graham's voice was flat, deadly. She's the mother of my children. Children you abandoned once before. Renee's eyes glittered with malice. Don't pretend to be the noble father now, Graham. We both know your history. The words hit their target perfectly. Graham felt the old shame rise in his chest, the guilt he'd carried for 7 years like a stone in his heart. He had abandoned Monica. He had run when she needed him most. But that didn't give Renee the right to make his children pay for his mistakes. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Emma stood in the doorway, her dark hair messy from sleep, wearing pajamas that were too big for her small frame. Mr. Delaney? Her voice was uncertain, like she wasn't sure she was allowed to be there. We were wondering, can we call Mommy today? Graham's heart shattered. His own daughter was asking permission to call her mother, asking him like he was a stranger who might say no. Of course you can, he said, dropping to his knees so he was at Emma's eye level. You can call her any time you want. Emma's face scrunched up in confusion. But the lady said Mommy didn't want to talk to us anymore. She said Mommy was too busy with her new life. What lady? Graham asked, though he already knew. Emma's eyes flicked nervously to Renee, who was watching the conversation with the detached interest of someone observing an experiment. The pretty lady, Emma whispered. She said you'd forget us, just like you did last time. The words hit Graham like a physical blow. Just like you did last time. Emma knew about his abandonment. Somehow, this 7-year-old child knew that her father had walked away from her mother when she needed him most. Have you ever had to face the consequences of a choice that hurt someone you loved? How do you rebuild trust with someone you abandoned? Share your thoughts below, because this man's past is about to collide with his present in the war. Graham's mind flashed back 7 years, to a college dorm room in North Carolina where Monica had told him she was pregnant. He could still see her face, hopeful, scared, trusting. She believed he would stay, would fight for their future together. Instead, he panicked. At 22, facing pressure from his family about his inappropriate relationship with a black woman from Detroit, he'd chosen cowardice over courage. He'd told Monica he needed time to think, and then he'd simply disappeared. Changed schools, changed phone numbers, changed his entire life to avoid the responsibility of fatherhood. By the time guilt had driven him back to find her, Monica had already given birth to triplets and built a life without him. She'd been gracious when he begged for forgiveness, had even agreed to paternity tests when he insisted on paying child support. But the damage was done. He missed their first steps, their first words, their first days of school. All because he'd been too scared to be a man when Monica needed him most. Emma, Graham said softly, can you tell me more about what the pretty lady said? She said Mommy gave us away because we were too much work. Emma's voice got smaller with each word. She said you didn't really want us either, but you were stuck with us now. Graham felt something dark and violent rise in his chest. He looked up at Renee, who was examining her manicured nails like this conversation bored her. She also said, Emma continued, her voice barely a whisper, that if we were really good and really quiet, maybe someday we could earn Mommy's love back. That was it. Graham stood up slowly, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. Every muscle in his body coiled with barely controlled rage. Get out, he said to Renee, his voice deadly quiet. Excuse me. Get out of my house. Now, before I do something we'll both regret. Renee stood gracefully, smoothing down her skirt. This is my house too, Graham. According to our prenup. I don't give a damn about the prenup. Graham stepped closer, using his height to loom over her. You poisoned my children against their mother. You made them believe they weren't wanted. I told them the truth. Renee's mask finally slipped, revealing the cold calculation underneath. You did abandon them once. Monica did give them up. I just made sure they understood the reality of their situation. Emma made a small sound, not quite a cry, not quite a whimper. Graham looked down to see tears streaming down his daughter's face. Daddy, she said, and the word hit him like lightning. Not Mr. Delaney. Not sir. Daddy. Yes, sweetheart. Are you going to leave us again? Graham knelt down and pulled Emma into his arms, feeling her small body shake against his chest. Over her head, he met Renee's cold stare with one of his own. Never, he said, loud enough for both his daughter and his wife to hear. I'm never leaving you again. When Graham asked why Mommy really sent him away, his son Marcus pulled out a hidden phone, Monica's phone, and played a recording that made Graham realize his wife wasn't just manipulative. She was dangerous. The voice on Monica's hidden phone wasn't threatening her about custody. It was threatening her life, and Renee's laughter could be heard in the background. Marcus appeared in the doorway, while Graham was still holding Emma, his 7-year-old face serious in the way children look when they're carrying secrets too heavy for their small shoulders. I have something, Marcus said quietly, glancing nervously at Renee. Something Mommy gave me before she had to go away. Graham's blood pressure spiked. What do you mean, before she had to go away? Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out an iPhone with a crack screen protector. Monica's phone. Graham recognized the purple case she'd always used, now scratched and worn from being hidden by 7-year-old for weeks. She gave this to me when the bad men came to our house, Marcus said, his voice getting smaller. She said if anything happened to her, I should give it to you. But only you, not anyone else. Renee went very still, her predatory grace replaced by something that looked almost like fear. Marcus, honey, Why don't you give that to me? I'll make sure your father gets it. No. Marcus stepped closer to Graham, clutching the phone against his chest. Mommy said not to trust anyone except Daddy. She said some people pretend to be nice, but they're really monsters. Graham's heart pounded as he took the phone from his son's small hands. Monica's wallpaper was still the same, a photo of the triplets laughing at a playground, taken before their world fell apart. What did she say exactly? Graham asked, his voice gentle despite the rage building in his chest. She said the pretty lady wasn't really nice. She said the pretty lady was paying bad men to hurt us, and that's why we had to come live with you. Marcus looked up at Graham with eyes that held too much knowledge for a child. But Mommy was scared you wouldn't believe us because the pretty lady is your wife. Have you ever discovered that someone you thought you knew was completely different? What do you do when the person sleeping next to you becomes a stranger? Tell me in the comments, because this revelation is about to destroy everything. Graham's hands shook as he unlocked Monica's phone. The last few messages in her text thread painted a picture of mounting terror. Communications with someone listed only as legal aid, talking about safe houses and witness protection. Photos of men in dark cars parked outside her apartment building. Voice memos recorded in whispered panic. But it was the final voice recording that made Graham's world tilt off its axis. He pressed play, and Monica's voice filled the room, scared, desperate, but still trying to be strong for her children. Graham, if you're hearing this, something has happened to me. The woman you married, she's not who you think she is. She's been paying people to watch us, to scare us. She wants the children away from me permanently, and she doesn't care what she has to do to make that happen. Monica's voice was shaking now, like she was trying not to cry. I'm sending the kids to you because it's the only way to keep them safe. But Graham, please, you have to listen carefully. Renee isn't just trying to break up our family. She's trying to eliminate me completely. The recording crackled with static, and Graham could hear sounds in the background. Footsteps, voices, a door closing. They're here, Monica whispered. I have to go. But Graham, whatever she tells you about me, whatever lies she makes you believe, remember this. I would never abandon our children. Never. If I'm not calling, if I'm not fighting for them, it's because I can't. The recording went quiet except for background noise. Then, clear as day, came a man's voice Graham didn't recognize. Time to go, lady. Boss wants to see you. Please. Monica's voice was barely audible. My children. Your children are better off without you. The man's voice was cold, professional. Now move. And then, just before the recording ended, Graham heard something that made his blood freeze solid. Renee's laughter. Distinctive, musical, and completely unmistakable. His wife had been there. She'd been there when they took Monica. Graham looked up at Renee, who was watching him with the calculating stare of a chess player who'd just realized her opponent might be better than expected. That could be anyone's voice, she said casually. Audio can be manipulated so easily these days. Get out. Graham's voice was barely human. Graham, be reasonable. Get out. The roar came from somewhere deep in his chest, primal and dangerous. Emma and Marcus pressed closer to him, sensing the violence crackling in the air. Renee's composure finally cracked. Her perfect smile twisted into something ugly. You have no idea what you're dealing with, Graham. No idea what I've protected you from. Protected me? Graham stood slowly, Marcus's hand gripping his shirt, Emma still in his arms. You had my children's mother kidnapped. I had a problem solved. Renee's voice was ice cold now, all pretense gone. Monica was never going to let you have a clean slate. She was always going to be there, reminding you of your failures, making you feel guilty for choosing success over sentiment. Graham felt something shift inside him, something that had been asleep for 7 years, finally waking up. The man who'd built a fortune from nothing, who'd fought and clawed his way to success, who'd been buried under guilt and shame for too long. Where is she? His voice was deadly quiet. Renee smiled, and Graham saw her true face for the first time, cold, calculating, and completely without conscience. That depends on how much you value your reputation, your fortune, and your children's future. She pulled out her own phone and showed him a photo that made his knees buckle. Monica, tied to a chair in what looked like an abandoned warehouse, very much alive, but clearly terrified. "She's safe for now," Renee said. "But that could change very quickly if you don't start seeing reason." As police led Renee away, she shouted over her shoulder, "This isn't over, Graham. You have no idea what you just cost yourself." The threat in her voice promised consequences none of them had considered. The recording had given him proof. But the photo told him something worse. Monica was still in danger, and he was running out of time to save her. The children were finally asleep when Graham's phone lit up with a number he'd been praying to see for 3 weeks. Have you ever waited for a call that could change everything? Graham stared at Monica's name flashing on a screen. His hands shook as he answered. "Graham." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Monica, Jesus Christ, where are you? The kids have been. I can't talk long. They're watching everything." She was crying. "I try to call them. Every day. She blocked my number." Graham stepped onto his balcony, rain hitting his face. "Who's watching?" "Monica, what the hell is going on? The people who want me dead think I saw something I shouldn't have." Her voice cracked. "I had to disappear. The marshals said if I made contact with anyone, they'd find me. Do you know what it feels like when your entire world shifts in 30 seconds? What did you see? A murder. 3 months ago, outside the school. I was working late, grading papers. I saw him shoot that city councilman they said killed himself." Monica's words rushed out. "The shooter saw me in the window. Next day, my car tires were slashed. Week later, someone broke into my apartment. Graham's blood turned cold. Who was the shooter? Some white guy in an expensive suit. Drove away in a black Mercedes." She paused. "Graham, I sent the kids to you because I thought they'd be safe. I thought Renee would. I never imagined." "She's evil, Monica. What she did to them." "I know. I've been hacked into your security cameras for 2 weeks. I watch her lock them outside. I watch her tell them you didn't want them." Monica's voice turned to rage. "I've been documenting everything. Have you ever felt pure hatred for someone who hurt the people you love? I'm coming to get you." "No, Graham, these people kill families. They killed that councilman's wife 2 weeks after his suicide. May it look like an overdose." Thunder crashed overhead. Graham gripped the railing. "Then what do we do?" "I have a plan, but I need you to do exactly what I say." Monica's voice got stronger. "And Graham, I need you to know something first." His heart hammered. "What?" 5 years ago, when you left me pregnant and alone, I hated you. I spent nights crying, wondering how someone who said they loved me could just vanish." Her words cut deep. "But watching you with our kids these past 2 weeks through those cameras, seeing you hold Emma when she has nightmares, I remembered why I fell in love with you. Do you believe people can really change?" Graham's throat tightened. "Monica, I was a coward. I was scared of my parents, scared of responsibility, scared of—" "I know, but the man I'm watching now, he's the father I always hoped you'd become." She took a shaky breath. "The man I could fall in love with all over again." Rain soaked through his shirt. "What do you need me to do?" "First, get the kids out of there. Tonight. Take them somewhere Renee can't find them." "Where?" "Your cabin in Idaho. The one you bought after your dad died." "She doesn't know about it, does she?" Graham's mind raced. "How did you?" "I've been researching everything about your life for 5 years, Graham. I wanted to hate you completely, but I kept hoping." Her voice softened. "I kept hoping you'd want us someday. Can you imagine loving someone who abandoned you? I do want you. All of you. More than anything. Then prove it. Get our children safe. Tomorrow night, meet me at Pike Place Market, vendor stall 47. Come alone." "Monica, what if they follow me?" "Then we're all dead anyway." The line went quiet except for her breathing. "Graham, if something happens to me, the evidence is in a safety deposit box. Bank of America on Pine Street. Key is taped under Emma's jewelry box, the one I sent with her." His chest constricted. "Nothing's going to happen to you. Kiss our babies for me. Tell them Mommy loves them and she's fighting to come home." "Monica, wait." The line went dead. Graham stood in the rain, feeling everything he'd ever cared about hanging by a thread. Inside, Renee was probably planning her next move. Tomorrow, he'd have to face killers. But tonight, he had to be the father his children needed. He walked to their room and found all three huddled in Emma's bed. Ethan looked up with scared eyes. Dad? Was that Mom? Graham's heart broke and healed at the same time. They'd finally called him Dad. What would you risk to save your family? By 3 a.m., Graham had packed 3 small suitcases and loaded his truck, but he hadn't counted on Renee being awake. Have you ever had to lie to someone who could destroy everything you love? She stood in the kitchen wearing his favorite silk robe, the one that used to drive him crazy. Now it made his skin crawl. Going somewhere, darling? Her voice was honey with poison underneath. Taking the kids to see my mom in Boise. They need family time. Graham's voice stayed steady, but his pulse hammered. Renee moved closer, her perfume overwhelming. At 3 in the morning? How spontaneous of you. Do you know how dangerous corner predators become? Mom's having surgery next week. This was the only time. He shouldered past her toward the stairs. Her manicured hand caught his arm. Graham, we need to talk about our arrangement. What arrangement? The one where I married you for your money, and you married me because I make you look respectable. She smiled like a shark. The one where those little accidents upstairs don't interfere with our plans. Graham's blood turned to ice. What did you just say? Oh, come on. You think I don't know about Monica's little situation? About why she's hiding? Renee's fingers trailed down his chest. I have friends in very high places. Friends who appreciate when problems get solved. Have you ever realized you've been sleeping next to a monster? You're involved in this. Involved? She laughed. Honey, I orchestrated half of it. Monica saw something she shouldn't have. My friend needed her to disappear. I suggested she send the kids to you first. Easier to control the situation. Graham's hands clenched into fists. You wanted them here so you could hurt them. I wanted them here so you'd see what a burden they are. So you'd sign custody over to their grandmother and we could get back to our life. She pressed against him. Just you and me. No complications. Can you imagine the rage of a parent protecting their children? There is no us, Renee. Oh, but there is. Her hand slipped lower. Because if you try to leave me, if you try to take those children, well, accidents happen. Car crashes on mountain roads. Gas leaks in cabins. Such tragedies. Graham grabbed her wrist, stopping her hand. Are you threatening my kids? I'm protecting our future. She leaned up to whisper in his ear. And if you're a good boy and do what I say, maybe Monica gets to live too. Pure fury coursed through his veins. For a split second, he understood how people committed murder. You're sick. I am practical. Now, why don't you go unpack that truck, come back to bed, and let me remind you why you married me. Her robe fell open, revealing the body that once made him forget everything else. Do you know what real love looks like compared to manipulation? Now, looking at her, all he felt was disgust. Cover yourself up. Her face twisted with rage. What did you say? I said cover yourself up. You make me sick. Renee's hand cracked across his cheek. You ungrateful bastard. Do you know what I gave up to marry you? The senator's son wanted me. Real political power. Instead, I settled for some tech nerd with daddy issues. Then why didn't you marry him? Because he's broke. She retied her robe violently. His family has titles, not money. You have money, not class. I was going to fix both problems. Have you ever seen someone reveal their true nature completely? By murdering my children's mother? By eliminating obstacles. She moved to the window, watching his packed truck. But plans change. Now I think we'll keep the kids. Raise them properly. Teach them their place. Graham's stomach lurched. You're not going anywhere near them. Actually, I think I'll start tonight. That little Emma is so defiant. Someone needs to teach her respect. Renee's smile was pure evil. Maybe a cold shower will help her attitude. Red fury exploded behind Graham's eyes. He grabbed Renee by the shoulders and slammed her against the wall. If you touch one of my children, I will kill you myself. She didn't look scared. She looked excited. There's the passion I married you for. Her breathing quickened. You know what this does to me when you get rough. Would you believe someone could be turned on by threatening children? Graham released her like she was on fire. You're insane. I'm in love. With power. With control. With you. She straightened her robe. And I always get what I want. Not this time. We'll see. She walked toward the stairs, then paused. Oh, and Graham? If that truck moves before sunrise, I'm calling my friend, the one who killed that councilman. Monica will be dead by breakfast." She disappeared upstairs, leaving Graham shaking with rage and terror. He looked at his truck, loaded with everything that mattered to him. Then he looked at his phone. Monica was counting on him to get the kids to safety. But if he left now, Renee would have her killed. What do you do when every choice leads to disaster? Graham made the hardest decision of his life. He walked outside and started unloading the truck. But as he carried the suitcases back inside, he whispered a promise to the sleeping children upstairs. "I'm going to save us all, no matter what it takes." Emma was missing when Graham woke up, and the sound of running water from the guest bathroom made his blood freeze. Have you ever felt your heart stop and your world collapse in the same instant? He ran down the hallway and found the bathroom door locked. Inside, Emma was screaming, "Emma, baby, I'm here." He ran. Graham threw his shoulder against the door. It splintered but held. Through the gap, he could see Emma in the shower, fully clothed, icy water pouring over her tiny body. Do you know what rage feels like when someone hurts your child? "Stand back, sweetheart." He kicked the door hard. Wood exploded as it flew open. Emma collapsed into his arms, soaking wet and shivering violently. Her lips were blue, her small body convulsing from cold. "Daddy," she said, "I was dirty." She said I needed to learn to be clean. Emma's teeth chattered so hard she could barely speak. Graham wrapped her in towels, his hands shaking with fury. "You're not dirty, baby. You're perfect. This is not your fault." "Where is she, Dad?" Ethan appeared in the doorway with Eli behind him, both boys looking terrified. "I don't know, but she's never touching any of you again." Can you imagine the helplessness of a parent who failed to protect their child? Graham carried Emma to his bedroom and dressed her in his warmest clothes. She clung to him like her life depended on it. "I want Mom," she whispered. "I know, sweetheart. Daddy's going to bring Mom home. I promise." But the mean lady said Mom doesn't want us anymore. She said Mom gave us away because we're bad kids. Graham's heart shattered. "Emma, look at me. Your mom loves you more than anything in the world. She's been trying to come home to you." The mean lady lied. Do you know how evil someone has to be to convince children their mother abandoned them? Really? Really? Mom calls you her little princess, right? And Ethan her brave knight? And Eli her smart scientist? Emma's eyes lit up for the first time in days. She remembers our special names. She remembers everything about you. She's fighting to come home right now. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. All three children pressed against Graham as Renee appeared in the doorway, perfectly dressed and holding a cup of coffee like nothing happened. "Good morning, family. How did everyone sleep? Have you ever wanted to hurt someone so badly your hand shook?" Graham stood slowly, placing himself between Renee and the kids. "Get out. This is my house too, darling. I was just helping Emma with her hygiene. Children need structure." "Structure?" Graham's voice was deadly quiet. "You locked a 7-year-old in a freezing shower. I gave her a cold shower because she wet the bed. Natural consequences teach responsibility." Renee sipped her coffee calmly. "My mother did the same thing to me. It builds character. Can you believe someone would torture a child and call it parenting? Your mother was abusive, just like you." Renee's face hardened. "Don't you dare judge my family. We have breeding, unlike some people. Get out. Now. Or what? You'll hit me? In front of the children?" She smiled cruelly. "That would be such a shame. For your custody case." Emma tugged on Graham's shirt. "Daddy, what's custody?" Graham knelt down to her level. "It means who gets to take care of you. And I'm never letting anyone hurt you again." "But she said you're going to give us back to the adoption people. Do you know how it feels to hear your child's worst fears spoken out loud?" "Emma, you're not adopted. I'm your real dad. Your mom is your real mom. No one is giving you away. Ever." Renee laughed. "How sweet. False hope is so cruel." Graham stood up, his patience gone. "Children, go to your room and pack your backpacks. We're leaving." "I wouldn't do that," Renee said softly. "Why not?" She pulled out her phone and showed him a text message. "Package delivered to Seattle police. Evidence of child abandonment and domestic violence filed. Warrant processing. Have you ever been outplayed by someone truly evil? You call the police? On me." I reported that you've been abusing these children. The photos of Emma this morning will be very compelling evidence. She held up her phone with pictures of Emma soaking wet and crying. Poor little girl, tortured by her unstable father. Graham's world tilted. You took pictures while you were abusing her? I took pictures of the aftermath of your violence. My word against yours, and I'm a respected member of this community. Renee's smile was poison. Married to a senator's family friend. You're just an unstable tech worker with anger issues. Can you imagine being framed for crimes by the person who actually committed them? No one will believe you. They'll believe the wife who's trying to protect these innocent children from their violent father. She moved closer. Unless, of course, you're reasonable. What do you want? I want you to call Monica and tell her to turn herself in. Today, Graham's blood went cold. So your friends can kill her. So this family can move forward without complications. Renee sat on his bed like she owned everything in it. You sign over custody to Monica's mother. The kids go live with Grandma in Detroit. Monica disappears permanently. You and I go back to our perfect life. Would you sacrifice yourself to save the people you love? Graham looked at his 3 children huddled together, scared and confused. Then he looked at the woman who just tortured his daughter and called it discipline. And if I refuse, then by tonight, you'll be in jail for child abuse. Monica will be dead by tomorrow, and these children will become wards of the state. Renee checked her manicure nails. Foster care can be so unpredictable, especially for mixed-race children with trauma. The threat hit Graham like a physical blow. These were his babies, his blood, his heart walking around outside his body. You have 1 hour to decide, Renee continued. Make the call, or watch everything you love get destroyed. She walked out, leaving Graham alone with 3 terrified children and an impossible choice. What would you do to save your family's life? Graham had 30 minutes left to choose between saving Monica or saving his children when his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Have you ever received a message that changed everything you thought you knew? The text read, check your email. Evidence folder. Password. Emma Ethan Lai. Use it wisely. A friend. Graham's hands trembled as he opened his laptop. In his spam folder was an email with video files attached. The password worked. Do you believe in miracles when you're desperate enough? The first video showed Renee on the phone. Monica Ellis needs to have an accident. Make it look natural. Car crash, maybe. The second showed her locking the children outside in the rain. Let them freeze. Builds character. The third was from this morning. Renee setting up her phone to record, then dragging Emma to the shower, turning on ice-cold water, and locking the door. She waited until Emma was screaming before rescuing her for the photos. Can you imagine someone planning child abuse for evidence? Graham's hands shook with rage, but his mind was crystal clear. Someone had been watching. Someone had proof of everything. His phone rang. Unknown number. Graham Delaney? Yes. This is Detective Sarah Chun, Seattle PD. We need to talk. Immediately. Graham's heart stopped. About what? About Monica Ellis. About Renee Blackwell. And about why someone just delivered a file to our office proving your wife is connected to 3 murders. Have you ever felt hope and terror in the same heartbeat? 3 murders? The city councilman, his wife, and they were planning a third. Detective Chin's voice was grim. Mr. Delaney, we need you and the children in protective custody. Now. But Renee said she filed charges against me. She tried to, but when we saw the evidence against her, we realized what was really happening. Chin paused. How quickly can you get the children to the police station? Renee's here. She's threatening to call her friends if I try to leave. Her friends are in federal custody as of 20 minutes ago. We've been building this case for months. Monica Ellis was never the target. She was the witness we needed. Do you know what it feels like when everything suddenly makes sense? Monica's been working with you? Monica's been working with the FBI. The witness protection was real, but it was also cover for her to gather evidence. Every phone call Renee made, every threat, every plan, we have it all. Graham felt dizzy. She's been safe, and braver than any person should have to be. She's been risking her life to save those children and put away killers. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Renee was coming back. Detective, she's here. What do I do? Keep her talking. Don't let her know you know anything. We're 5 minutes away. Have you ever had to pretend everything was normal while your world exploded? Renee walked into the bedroom where Graham sat with the children on the bed. Time's up, darling. Have you made your decision? Graham looked at his kids. Emma is still pale from her ordeal. Ethan trying to be brave. Eli clutching his stuffed dinosaur. His family. His heart. I'm not calling Monica. Renee's face went cold. Then you've just killed her. Maybe, but I'm not trading her life for theirs. If you want to destroy us, you'll have to do it yourself. Can you imagine the courage it takes to call evil's bluff? Phoenix. She pulled out her phone. One call, and Monica Ellis is dead within the hour. Go ahead. Make the call. Renee dialed. Waited. Her confident expression slowly changed to confusion. Victor? Victor, pick up. She tried another number. Then another. What the hell? Problem? Graham asked calmly. None of them are answering. Fear crept into her voice for the first time. This doesn't make sense. Do you know what panic looks like on someone who's never been powerless? Maybe they're busy. Victor always answers. Always. Renee paced frantically. Something's wrong. Or maybe something's right for the first time in months. She spun toward him. What did you do? Me? I'm just a tech nerd with daddy issues. Remember? What could I possibly do to your powerful friends? Emma tugged on Graham's shirt. Daddy, what's happening? Justice, sweetheart. Justice is happening. Have you ever seen evil realize it's been defeated? Renee's phone rang. She grabbed it desperately. Victor. But it wasn't Victor. It was Detective Chen's voice, loud enough for everyone to hear. Renee Blackwell, this is Seattle Police. The house is surrounded. Come out with your hands visible. The color drained from Renee's face. This isn't possible. Actually, it's been inevitable for months. Graham stood up, finally feeling safe with his children. Did you really think Monica was just some scared teacher hiding in the woods? She's a nobody. She's the woman who loves these kids enough to risk everything to protect them, including working with the FBI to take down killers. Can you believe how wrong you can be about someone's strength? FBI. Renee's voice was barely a whisper. Every call you made, every threat, every plan to hurt Monica or the children. They have it all. Graham moved the kids behind him. It's over. Sirens filled the air. Red and blue lights flashed through the windows. You set me up, Renee whispered. I didn't set you up. You exposed yourself. I just stopped protecting you from the consequences. Police voices echoed from outside. This is your final warning. Come out now. Renee looked at Graham with pure hatred. This isn't over. Yes, it is. She walked toward the stairs, then suddenly turned back toward the children with something metal in her hand. What would you do if evil made one last desperate move against your family? Graham didn't hesitate. He threw himself between Renee and the children just as the bedroom door exploded inward. Police! Everyone on the ground. When Graham opened his eyes, he was on the floor with Emma crying over him, and there was blood on his shirt that wasn't his own. Have you ever woken up to discover your worst nightmare was actually over? Daddy, Daddy, please wake up. Emma's tears fell on his face. I'm okay, baby. Daddy's okay. He sat up slowly, checking his body for injuries. Nothing hurt. Detective Chun knelt beside him. That was incredibly brave and incredibly stupid, Mr. Delaney. Where is she? Renee Blackwell is in custody. The knife missed you by inches when you tackled her. She's going away for a very long time. Can you imagine the relief of knowing your children are finally safe? The blood. Hers. She fought the officers. Chen helped him stand. Your children are safe. That's what matters. Graham pulled all 3 kids into his arms. They were crying, but they were alive and unhurt. His heart felt too big for his chest. Is the bad lady gone forever? Eli asked in his quiet voice. Forever, Graham promised. Do you know what home feels like after you almost lost everything? A familiar voice from the doorway made everyone freeze. Room for one more in that hug? Monica stood there in jeans and an FBI jacket, looking exhausted but radiant. She was real. She was safe. She was here. Mommy, all 3 children broke from Graham and ran to her. Graham watched the reunion through tears. He wasn't ashamed to cry. Monica dropped to her knees and held their babies like she'd never let go. My brave little warriors. Mommy missed you so much. We knew you didn't give us away, Emma whispered. Daddy told us you were fighting to come home. Monica looked up at Graham with eyes full of love and gratitude. Daddy was right. Have you ever felt love so strong it physically hurt your chest? Detective Chun cleared her throat. Ms. Ellis, we need to debrief, but I think your family deserves some time first. How long do we have? Monica asked. A few hours. Then we'll need statements from everyone. Chun paused at the door. For what it's worth, you're all heroes. What you did to bring down this network saved a lot of lives. When they were alone, Monica stood up slowly. Graham didn't know if he should hug her or give her space. 5 years of hurt and longing stretched between them. Thank you, she said softly, for protecting them, for believing in me. Thank you for being stronger than I ever imagined possible. Can you forgive someone who abandoned you when they prove they've changed? Graham, we need to talk about. I know, about what I did 5 years ago. About how I left you. His voice cracked. Monica, I was a coward. I was selfish and scared, and I destroyed the best thing in my life. You hurt me, badly. I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life making up for it, if you'll let me. The children were playing quietly on the bed, finally relaxed enough to just be kids again. The man who left me 5 years ago couldn't have done what you did this week, Monica said. He couldn't have put the children first. He couldn't have been brave enough to face danger for someone else. Do you believe people can truly change when everything they love is at stake? I had to grow up, had to become the father they deserved, and the man I needed. She stepped closer. Graham, when I was hiding in safe houses, watching you through those cameras, falling in love with who you'd become, I realized something. What? I realized I'd been carrying this anger for 5 years, but underneath it, I never stopped loving you. Her voice was barely a whisper. The college boy I fell in love with was still in there. He just needed a reason to fight. Graham's throat tightened. I love you, Monica. I never stopped, even when I was with her, even when I thought I'd lost you forever. Have you ever felt your heart heal from wounds you thought were permanent? I love you too. Still. Again. Always. He reached for her hand tentatively. She didn't pull away. Mommy? Daddy? Are you going to live together now? Emma asked with the directness only children possess. Monica and Graham looked at each other, both smiling through tears. Would you like that? Monica asked. Yes, all 3 children shouted at once. Then yes, we're going to live together. We're going to be a real family. Can you imagine how sweet victory tastes after you've almost lost everything? But Monica continued, Mommy and Daddy need to take things slow. We need to learn how to be together again. How to trust again. Graham nodded. We need to heal. All of us. From everything that happened. But we're going to do it together, Monica said firmly. No more running. No more hiding. No more being afraid. Ethan, who'd been quiet through all of this, suddenly spoke up. Dad. Yeah, buddy. You called us your kids to the police lady. Not Monica's kids or the children. You said my kids. Graham's eyes filled again. Because you are my kids. You always were. I was just too stupid and scared to claim you. Do you know what it sounds like when a family finally becomes whole? We're really a family now. Eli asked. We're really a family, Graham confirmed. Forever and always. Monica squeezed his hand. Forever and always. Outside, the police were finishing their work. Inside, 5 people who'd found each other, lost each other, and found each other again were learning what home really meant. But their story was just beginning. Because real families aren't perfect. They're just worth fighting for. 3 months later, Renee sat in orange prison clothes across from Graham in the county jail visitor room, her manicured nails now chipped and broken, begging him to drop the charges. Have you ever watched someone you once loved completely destroy themselves? Graham stared at the woman who had nearly cost him everything. The federal charges were serious: kidnapping across state lines, child endangerment, fraud. But what hurt most wasn't her crimes. It was realizing he'd been sleeping next to a monster. Graham, please, Renee whispered through the thick glass. I was protecting our future. Those kids, they would have ruined everything we built. Our future. Graham's voice stayed calm, but his hands shook with rage. You locked 3 7-year-olds outside in the rain. You deleted their calls to their mother. You made them call me Mr. Delaney like I was a stranger. The visiting room smelled like disinfectant and broken dreams. Other families whispered around metal tables, but Graham felt alone with his fury. I gave you everything, Renee continued, tears streaming down her face. Designer clothes, trips to Europe, that house in the Hamptons. I changed my whole life for you. You changed nothing, Graham said. You just hid who you really were. Do you know what it feels like to discover the person sharing your bed is capable of hurting children? Graham remembered their wedding night, how passionate Renee had been, how she'd whispered about their perfect life together. Now, those same lips had lied to police, to social workers, to him. The kids are happy now, Graham said, standing to leave. Monica's back. We're family. Something you never understood. Monica! Renee's voice turned sharp with jealousy. That poor teacher from Detroit? You're choosing her over me. Graham paused at the door. I'm choosing my children. Something you couldn't do. As he walked through the jail's security checkpoints, Graham's phone buzzed. A text from Monica. The kids want to know if you're coming to Emma's school play tonight. She's playing a princess.
But Graham didn't know that Renee's family was already working behind the scenes. Her father, Senator Marcus Webb from Georgia, had connections everywhere. And wealthy, connected families don't let their daughters rot in county jail without a fight. 2 days later, Graham got the call that would change everything again. Mr. Delaney? This is Detective Rodriguez. Renee Webb made bail this morning. She's been released pending trial. The phone slipped from Graham's hands. Outside his office window, Seattle looked peaceful. Inside his chest, terror was building. Renee was free, angry, and had nothing left to lose. What would you do if the person who hurt your family was suddenly back on the streets? Drop a comment below and let me know. And hit that like button if you're as worried about Graham's family as I am. At 2:17 a.m. on a Tuesday night, Graham's security system detected movement in his backyard. The same night, Monica had fallen asleep in his bed for the first time since returning from witness protection. Have you ever been so afraid for someone you love that you couldn't sleep? Graham sat up in bed, watching the security monitors on his phone. A figure in dark clothes moved between the trees near his pool house. Monica stirred beside him, her brown skin warm against his chest. After months of rebuilding trust, she'd finally stayed the night. The kids were safely asleep down the hall. Everything felt perfect. Until now. What's wrong? Monica whispered, her teacher instincts always alert. Stay here, Graham said, reaching for the pistol in his nightstand. Call 911 if I'm not back in 5 minutes. Graham, no, don't go out there alone. But he was already moving, his bare feet silent on the hardwood floors. Through the kitchen window, he could see the figure more clearly now. Small, feminine, familiar. Renee. She stood by their pool, still wearing the same orange jumpsuit from jail, soaking wet from the rain. In her hands was something Graham couldn't quite see. Do you know what desperation looks like? Renee's hair hung in wet strings around her face. Her makeup had run, leaving black streaks down her cheeks. She looked nothing like the polished socialite he'd married. Graham stepped on a back deck, gun raised. Renee, what are you doing here? She turned slowly, and Graham saw what she was holding. Photographs. Dozens of them. Pictures of him and Monica, of the kids playing in the yard, of their family dinners through the kitchen window. You moved on fast, Renee said, her voice hollow. How long were you planning this? How long were you cheating on me with that teacher? I never cheated, Graham said. Monica and I didn't reconnect until after you were arrested. Liar. Renee threw the photographs at him. They scattered across the wet deck like broken promises. I hired a private investigator. He's been watching you for weeks. Graham's blood ran cold. Someone had been spying on his family. On his children. You had us followed? I had to know, Renee screamed. I had to understand why you chose her over me. What does she have that I don't? The answer came easier than Graham expected. She loves my children. Renee laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Your children? Those kids don't even look like you, Graham. How do you know they're really yours? That's when Graham saw the second figure emerging from the shadows. A large man in black clothes, moving toward the house, toward Monica and the kids. "Renee, who is that? What did you do?" But Renee was already backing toward the pool house, a smile spreading across her face. "If I can't have you, Graham, no one can. Especially not her." Graham's security system started blaring. Motion detectors, glass breaking. Someone was inside his house. He ran toward the back door, but Renee's voice stopped him cold. "Choose, Graham. Come after me, or save them. You can't do both." Through the kitchen window, he could see a flashlight beam moving upstairs, toward the children's rooms. "This is getting intense. Who do you think Graham should go after first? And what would you do if someone was threatening your family like this?" Let me know in the comments, and make sure to subscribe because this story is about to get even crazier. Graham made his choice in 2.3 seconds. The time it took for him to hear Emma scream, "Daddy," from upstairs and see Renee's accomplice climbing through his daughter's bedroom window. Have you ever had to choose between catching the person who hurt you or saving the people you love most? Graham didn't hesitate. He sprinted toward his house as Renee disappeared into the darkness behind him. The back door was already open, glass from the kitchen window crunching under his bare feet. His security alarm shrieked through the house, but all Graham could hear was his heart pounding in his ears. "Monica!" he shouted, taking the stairs 3 at a time. "In here!" Her voice came from the Triplets' room. "Graham, hurry!" He burst through the door to find Monica standing in front of all 3 children, a baseball bat in her hands. The man in black was halfway through the window, his face covered by a ski mask. "Get away from them," Graham ordered, raising his gun. The intruder froze, one leg still outside the window. "Easy, man. Just following orders." "Whose orders?" Graham demanded. Before the man could answer, Emma broke free from Monica's protective arm and ran to Graham. "Daddy, we were so scared. The bad lady came back." That's when Graham noticed something that made his blood freeze. Muddy footprints on the carpet. Small, feminine prints leading from the window to the children's beds. "She was in here," he whispered to Monica. Renee was in their room. Monica's face went white. "The kids were asleep when I heard the glass break. By the time I got here, she was already gone." The man in the window started backing out, but Graham's voice stopped him. "Move another inch, and I'll put a bullet in your back." Do you know what pure rage feels like? It burns in your chest like acid, makes your vision blur with fury. Graham wanted to hurt this man, wanted to make him pay for terrorizing his children. But Emma was watching, and she'd seen enough violence. "Daddy, don't shoot him," Emma whispered. "I don't want you to go to jail too." Those words hit Graham harder than any physical blow. His 7-year-old daughter was worried about him going to prison. What kind of world was he creating for these kids? On the ground, Graham ordered the intruder. "Now!" The man complied, hand behind his head. Graham could hear sirens in the distance. The police were finally coming. "What did Renee pay you to do?" Graham asked. "Just scare you," the man mumbled. "Make you understand she's not going away." "And if we didn't scare?" The man's silence was answer enough. Monica pulled all 3 children closer, her teacher instincts in full protection mode. "Jake, Marcus, Emma, close your eyes for me, okay? Think about something happy." That's when Graham heard footsteps on the roof. Light, careful movements heading toward the master bedroom. Renee wasn't done. "Stay with the kids," Graham told Monica. "Don't let anyone through that door except police." "Graham, don't leave us again," Emma pleaded, her small hands clutching his shirt. The hardest thing Graham had ever done was gently removing his daughter's fingers from his clothes. "I'm not leaving you, princess. I'm protecting you. There's a difference." As he moved toward the hallway, Graham's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Your choice, Graham. Sign over custody to me, or Monica pays the price. You have until sunrise." The timestamp showed 3:47 a.m. Sunrise was in 3 hours. But Graham Delaney was done making choices based on other people's threats. He'd spent 5 years being a coward, letting fear control his decisions. Tonight, that ended. He typed back, "Come and take them." From somewhere in his house, he heard Renee laugh. "Oh my God, this is getting crazy. What do you think Renee is planning next? And do you think Graham is making the right choice by fighting back? Let me know what you would do in the comments. And smash that like button if your heart is racing like mine. At 4:23 a.m., Graham found Renee in his master bedroom, wearing Monica's clothes and sitting at Monica's makeup table like she belonged there. Have you ever walked into a nightmare that felt like reality? Renee had made herself at home in the space Monica had just begun to claim. She put on Monica's favorite sundress, the yellow one with tiny flowers that made her look like sunshine. You always did like her style, Renee said, applying Monica's lipstick in a mirror. Simple. Pure. Everything I'm not. Graham kept his gun trained on her, but his hands were shaking now. Not from fear, from exhaustion. How long could one family keep fighting? It's over, Renee. The police are here. Your friend downstairs is already in handcuffs. Marcus isn't my friend, Renee said, turning to face him. He's my insurance policy. Did you know he has 3 outstanding warrants in Florida? When they run his prints, they'll find out he's wanted for armed robbery. What's your point? Renee smiled, and Graham saw the madness behind her eyes. My point is that desperate men do desperate things when they're cornered. And right now, Marcus thinks you're the reason he's going back to prison. Do you see how evil works? It doesn't just destroy, it corrupts everything around it. Renee had turned a simple break-in into a chess game where everyone else was expendable. You think Marcus is going to hurt my family to get back at me? I think Marcus is going to do whatever it takes to avoid a life sentence, Renee said. And right now, Monica and those kids are the only leverage he has. Graham's phone buzzed. A text from Detective Rodriguez. Suspect downstairs is asking to make a deal. Says he has information about a bigger crime. Won't talk unless he speaks to you first. What bigger crime? Graham asked Renee. She laughed, the sound echoing off the bedroom walls. Oh, Graham, you still don't understand, do you? This was never about getting you back. This was about destroying the life you chose over me. That's when Graham heard something that made his blood freeze. Silence. The house alarm had stopped. The police sirens had faded. Even the children had stopped crying. What did you do? He whispered. I made sure that even if I lose, everyone loses. Renee reached into the dresser drawer and pulled out a small device with blinking red lights. Do you know what this is, Graham? His throat went dry. A detonator. A very special detonator. Connected to devices I had Marcus plant throughout your house over the past 3 days. In the basement, the attic, the children's rooms. Graham's world started spinning. You're bluffing. Am I? Renee held up her phone, showing him photos. Explosive devices tucked behind water heaters, inside air vents, under floorboards. I told you, Graham. If I can't have you, no one can. The kids are innocent, Graham pleaded. Monica never did anything to you. Let them go. Like you let me go? Like you abandoned me for another woman. Renee stood up, still wearing Monica's dress. You want to save them? Here's what's going to happen. Do you know what desperation sounds like? It's the voice of a woman who has lost everything and decided to take the world with her. You're going to walk downstairs, Renee continued. You're going to tell the police that Marcus was working alone, that I was never here. You're going to drop all charges against me. And if I don't, Renee held up the detonator. Then in 30 seconds, everyone you love dies. Graham's mind raced. The police were downstairs. Monica and the kids were trapped. One wrong move, and they were all dead. But then he remembered something Emma had said earlier. I don't want you to go to jail too, Daddy. His daughter believed in him. She trusted him to make the right choice. Renee, Graham said, lowering his gun. You win. Her eyes lit up with victory. Smart, Mon. But first, let me ask you something. That dress looks beautiful on you. Where did Monica buy it? Renee glanced down at herself, confused by the question. What does that matter? It matters because Monica bought that dress the day she decided to trust me again. She wore it on our first real date after she came back. It means everything to her. So, Graham smiled. So she sewed a GPS tracker into the fabric. Monica's a smart woman. She wanted to make sure she could always be found. The confusion on Renee's face turned to horror as she realized what that meant. The police have been tracking this room for the past 10 minutes, Graham said. They know exactly where you are. That's when the bedroom window exploded inward and SWAT officers flooded the room. Yes, finally some justice. But wait, what about those explosives? Is the family really safe? Make sure you're subscribed because the next chapter is the conclusion you've been waiting for. And trust me, you don't want to miss how this all ends. 6 months later, Emma Delaney stood in a white flower girl dress, throwing rose petals down the aisle where her father was about to marry the woman who saved their family. Have you ever seen a love story that survived kidnapping, betrayal, and attempted murder? Graham adjusted his tie and watched his daughter dance toward the altar, her brothers Jake and Marcus right behind her in tiny tuxedos. The wedding was small, just family and close friends in Monica's childhood church in Detroit. After everything they'd been through, big celebrations felt wrong. This felt right. Monica appeared at the back of the church, and Graham's breath caught in his chest. She wore her grandmother's wedding dress, simple and elegant, with her natural hair and soft curls around her shoulders. No designer gown could have made her more beautiful. As she walked toward him, Graham thought about the journey that brought them here. Renee was serving 15 years in federal prison. The explosives had been fake, a final desperate bluff, but the kidnapping charges were real. Monica had spent months in therapy, helping the kids process their trauma. And Graham had learned what it meant to be a real father. Dearly beloved, the pastor began, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Monica and Graham and the official adoption of these three beautiful children into a forever family. Do you believe in second chances? Graham looked at his children in the front row. Emma gave him a thumbs up. Jake was trying not to cry. Marcus was fixing his bow tie with serious concentration. Monica, the pastor continued, do you take Graham to be your husband, and do you promise to love and guide Emma, Jake, and Marcus as your own children? I do, Monica said, her voice strong and clear. I promise to love this family with everything I have. When it was Graham's turn, he didn't just promise to love Monica. He promised to love her children, because that's what they were now. His children. Their children. You may kiss the bride, the pastor announced. As Graham leaned in to kiss his new wife, Emma shouted from the audience, finally, now we're a real family. The church erupted in laughter and applause. Even the adults were crying. But the biggest surprise came during the reception. As Monica cut the cake, she pulled Graham aside with a nervous smile. I have one more wedding gift for you, she whispered. Monica, you've already given me everything. She placed his hand on her stomach, and Graham's eyes went wide. Everything plus one, she said. I'm pregnant. Graham looked around the reception, at Emma teaching other kids how to do the electric slide, at Jake and Marcus racing through the church hall, at Monica glowing with happiness and new life. How long have you known? 2 weeks. I wanted to tell you somewhere special. Graham kissed her forehead, then dropped to his knees and kissed her stomach. Hello in there, baby. Your big sister and brothers can't wait to meet you. Do you know what a family really looks like? It's not perfect people living perfect lives. It's broken people choosing to heal together, choosing to fight for each other, choosing love over fear every single day. As the reception wound down, Graham stepped outside for air. Detective Rodriguez approached him, looking official. Mr. Delaney? I have an update about Renee. Graham's stomach tightened. What now? She's been moved to a psychiatric facility. Her lawyer says she's having a complete mental breakdown. Keeps talking about how she lost her family. She never had a family, Graham said. She had possessions. There's something else. She wants to see you. Graham looked back through the church windows at his wife, dancing with their children, at the life they'd built from the ashes of tragedy. Tell her I'm busy, he said. I have a family to raise. The detective smiled and walked away. Graham returned to the reception, where Emma was waiting with a piece of cake. Daddy, make a wish, she said, holding up a candle. Graham looked at Monica, at his children, at the new life growing inside his wife. I don't need to wish for anything, princess. I already have everything I need. And for the first time in his entire life, Graham Delaney meant it. What an incredible journey. From abandonment to redemption. From broken trust to unbreakable love. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like and share it with someone who believes in second chances. And don't forget to subscribe for more amazing true stories that prove love really can conquer all. Thanks for taking this emotional ride with Graham, Monica, and the kids. Until next time.